Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So this was one of the graduation cakes we made during the last graduation season, and I would like to show you how we did it. First of all, we trimmed our cakes. We had two layers of cake. One was a 10-inch and the other was a 7-inch. So we trimmed them nicely. I used my acrylic disc to trim these cakes. After trimming the big one, went ahead to trim the smaller one. Always make sure that your knife is very sharp and be careful not to cut yourself while trimming. Then we went ahead to make a crumb coat, which is simply a mixture of margarine, which is our buttercream and cake crumbs. Just make sure that it's not too thick and use it to crumb coat your cake. This serves as a base when you want to cover with fondant. It seals in the cake properly and gives you a smooth finish to work with. So we crumb coated the big cake and then went ahead to crumb coat the small one. Hi guys, welcome back to my space. Let's cover this cake together. These are the equipment we'll be using: our rolling pins, our sharp knife, our pizza cutter, and our smoothers, our tape, corn flour, and of course our fondant, which we wrapped up earlier. Always keep your fondant well wrapped up. Hands have been properly washed, so let's get right into it. Knead your fondant properly with here. Remove all the balls, all the air. So this fondant is a bit strong because it has been raining back to back for the past 2 weeks, and I don't want any stories that touch. So right now I've closed all the doors, all the windows. It's warm inside this space because we don't want the fondant melting down, and I added extra CMC so that the fondant will hold up with the weather. So we'll go in first with our normal rolling pin. Always bear in mind the shape of the cake you want to cover when you're rolling, and always move it. So that it's of a spreadable consistency. See how it is now. Looks very yummy. So If you've been on my channel for some time, you'll notice that I always flip my fondant to the other side so that it gives me a very pliant fondant to work with, because sometimes you waste time while trying to crumb coat and do other things before you start covering the cake. Also, it helps the fondant to have some strength of its own. It's not always good to use very light fondant or very stretchy fondant. So when you allow it to rest a bit before you start covering, it helps to give you a better result. So here we've gone in with our ribbed rolling pin to get the design that we want. Anytime you want to emboss your fondant, always make sure you apply enough pressure. Apply pressure at the first time. If not, you will not get the imprint that you want very well. So when you apply pressure, the imprint comes out very nicely. So we've gone ahead to start covering our cake. I always like to use the paneling method to cover my cake. It uses less fondant and always gives me the desired results. So after covering the body of the cake, we've gone ahead to roll the cover of the cake. Always bear in mind the shape that you want when you are covering. Don't roll in a straight line when you want to cover the top of your cake. Always make sure that you roll in a way that will cover the cake, that you'll be able to get the diameter that you want for your cake before you start covering. So like I said earlier, this fondant was quite hard, so I had to put a lot of pressure. I had to exert enough energy to roll it out nicely. And always make sure that the covering is not too thick. If not, it will be hard for you to join them together. Always remember to add your corn flour to your board and also to the top of the cake before you start flipping it. So after we flipped, we went ahead to join the two parts of our cake. If you've watched my previous videos, you know that I always like to do a rough joining first and cut off the excesses before I start doing the real joining. Always make sure you apply enough pressure. Apply pressure with the rounded end of your smoother. Don't ever use the sharp end to tear your fondant. Always make sure you're using the rounded end of your smoother while joining the two together. So when you are done with that, you remove the excesses and then you come and join them again nicely. Please forgive any noise you hear in the background. Holiday makers won't let me be. So went ahead to join nicely. Make sure that every part is well joined, and then you go in with your sharp knife. Always make sure that your knife is very sharp and clean so that you can get a clean cut. Cut at an angle, cut nicely, go around again if you have need to. Then you go in with your two smoothers before you flip back. Make sure that the edges are very sharp. Then also do the same for the down part so that if you need to cut off any excesses, you can cut it off. So went ahead to cover the second cake. Make sure it's secure to your cake. And then I used my two smoothers to cut off the excesses. I didn't want any opening in my cake. That was why I cut off the excess this way. Then overlap the top, add the one for the top, and then you flip again and repeat the process. So while we're at it, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Ejo, I beg. Thank you. Subscribe to my channel, like my videos, share with your friends. I have a lot of educative content for beginners and even for advanced cake makers. You can always learn a trick or two from each of my videos. These are things I've learned over the years from paid classes, and I'm giving them out for free. So please support my hustle. Support me with your likes, with your comments, and ask me any question you want to ask. I'll gladly answer them. So because this was a graduation cake, I went ahead to make the cap. As a beginner, I always had issues with making this cap because I'll make it with fondant and it will break or be bending and be looking soggy, because graduation is always during the rainy season. So I learned to use this hard cardboard to make my caps. Just cover it with fondant nicely, do it neatly. It's not a big deal, it's very easy to do. I just used water to stick the cardboard to my fondant, and then I smoothened it out, made it look nice before putting it on top of my cake. So this will save you the stress of trying to make sure your fondant is dry. So you can always use this when you have to make a fondant cap. It also saves you time. You don't have to start worrying about it drying, because you can just use it straight up. So we've covered this and we're going to add it to our cake. But before I added it to the cake, I decided to put my stacking board, that's also straw board covered with cling film, so that it doesn't touch our cake directly. So I put the stacking board underneath it first before putting the cap, so that I will not have issues when I want to stack this smaller cake on top of the bigger cake. So after doing that, I just went ahead to rub water on the top of my cake, and then I placed the cap on top of it, and it was just nice. It stuck perfectly. I didn't have any issues with it. So you can do that for your own. Just put a little pressure. Then a I was supposed to have a topper in the middle. That was why I made that hole, so that I would know where to place the topper after covering the cake. The cake cap was supposed to be blue in color, so went ahead to color it. If you've watched my previous videos, you know that I rarely color dark colors. I prefer to paint them on the cake. It saves you a lot of time and stress. And that was what we just did here. You just mix your color of choice with a little edible spirit. Please go for good quality edible spirit or alcohol that can dry fast. So because the rains were really coming back to back, and as a baker, you know that your cakes don't need that amount of humidity. What we did to be extra secure was we put on our oven, allowed it to heat for like 5 minutes, and then we switched it off. Please take note, we switched it off, and then we placed our cake inside the oven for like 5 minutes to dry out completely. That way you're not going to be scared of your fondant melting down. It would not melt. Just make sure that the oven is not on. You just heated it up. You just want that heat to dry up um the excess fluid in the air. So you can do that when the weather is really bad. Then we went ahead to cut our dowels. Always make sure your dowels are all equal. Choose your starting point and use it as a
Always make
measurement.
sure
Make sure
all
that
your
they are
dowels
all
are
equal.
equal.
Always make sure they are all
Always.
equal, and that they are not exactly flush with your cake. Let it be a little higher than your cake, maybe like just half inch higher than your cake, so that your cake can rest nicely on top of the sticks and not on top of the other layer of cake. That way you will not have issues with stacking your cake. Very, very important. I already put in a central dowel to connect the two tiers of cake. So went ahead to flip our cake. See, it is really dry, and then place it on the lower one. We didn't have any issues with melting, even though this cake stood outside for hours and the weather wasn't so sunny. It did not melt down. It did not start absorbing liquid from the air. It just stayed nice and dry. So after we had a bowl going around this cake, so I just rolled out a thin strip of fondant. I did it freestyle. I didn't use any special equipment to do this. I just eyeballed it, and then I cut it and placed it on my cake. Cut off the excess, add a little liquid. Be very careful with using liquid when the season is very wet and humid. So went ahead to make the bowl. It's just a very simple process. Just roll out your fondant, check the dimensions, Like I said, this was just freehand. I didn't use any special equipment for any of these. So just cut like so, squeeze the middle together, place tissue in the center to give it that shape to help hold it up. I always have clean tissue handy that is just for the office work. Then just use a little liquid to hold it together, water with your brush, and then we'll make the center piece. Roll it to the desired size. Just fold it like so, and then squeeze the two ends and place it. Cut off any excess if you have to. Just use a little liquid. You don't want too much liquid. Then just use your fingers to do the magic. So I just went ahead to place it directly on the cake. I didn't give it time to dry on its own because time was not our friend. So I just placed it like so. We had to color it, so I had to do everything fast. I squeezed the excess tissue into the center so that I could give it the shape I wanted, and then went ahead to paint it with our edible spirit and gold dust. Just be very careful when you're painting so that you don't stain the rest of your cake. Then went ahead to put the topper on top of the cake, and that was it, guys. Hope you learned a thing or two and hope you enjoy my videos. Thank you so very much for watching till now. God bless you always. I love you all. Ciao, ciao.